Harry Stalker scare means that he's nailed on to be given armed police guards for UK visits, insiders claim. Let's get reaction now from our own Talk Royal correspondent, Rupert Bell. Good morning, Rupert.
Good morning, Mark. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Look forward to many conversations in 2026 with you, Rupert. We love having you on the show. What do you make of this story? Do you think it's got legs? Is Harry going to get his armed cops in the UK?
Well, he's working so hard to get it. And obviously this Stalker story does give him some credibility as to what he wants to achieve. He always comes here with a degree of security, but he wants the bells and whistles security.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
And that is part of what he's been discussing. And I suppose when he does come here, and he's not coming here very often, okay, he says he's too frightened to bring his children if he doesn't have it. Well, maybe this is some way of just putting that to bed and saying, well, you can come, we'll give you the proper security, but will they come? That might be the interesting dynamic here. Will Meghan and the rest of his family come into the UK? And that is part of the problem, I think, for Harry. It's not just about his issues with his security. It's probably actually persuading the wife to come, because she hasn't shown a great deal of inclination to hot-foot it over here. But she may look at restoring and say, well, this will give my career a degree of credibility. Look, I'm back in the royal fold.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting how it plays out. But I do have a degree of sympathy for Harry. If he has got these kind of issues going on, then he's right to raise them. Then he's right to make sure that perhaps he does have the right sort of security when he comes to this country.
Well, that's right. Viewers of my royal channel on YouTube, The Mark Dolan Show, tend to disagree with me when I say that, yes, Harry's made his own bed, he's got to lie in it, he's left the United Kingdom, he's relinquished his royal duties, but it wasn't his choice to be born the son of the King of the United Kingdom, and come what may, that makes him a target.
That is something that I think we all should take into account, that he is born into the family. Whatever the situation is, he is a target. Yeah. But it is interesting that he does like to go to places like Nigeria. He's been to South America. He does put himself in places that you'd say, well, mate, what's the security like in these particular countries? So, and he always would have come here with a degree of security. He just had to brief, but he, as I say, just didn't have the bells and whistles security. Well, if he does get that, will it put the whole thing to bed? Can we move on? Perhaps, yes, it will be time to move on and worry about his other problems that he's got.
And he's got plenty of those. How much, though, of this battle with the Home Office for security is about Harry's safety, given the fact that he was happy to go to Ukraine, which is famously at war? He's been to China, he's been to South America, he's been to Africa, places like Lesotho and Nigeria. So is there a degree of double standards here from the Prince?
Well, I think there is. And this is where I think people get slightly frustrated with him. That he's constantly moaning at the British government, yet he's showing no hesitation in heading to places where, as I say, that might have a little more of a security problem. So I have to say, Harry does operate quite often in the land of double standards. So, and, he will say one thing, and then you find out, well, he actually doesn't mean that. So I think there is, and it's an easy stick to say, look, I can't come back to Britain. Well, actually, I'd have to say Britain isn't busting a gut to have him back. So there is an element there. But if he does get the right security, and if it does lead to some form of rapprochement with his father, then maybe finally this aspect of the problems that he's got can be put to rest. He's still got libel court, he's got court cases, and their own issues with the Sussexes at the moment is their career isn't actually going in a very upward curve at the moment. So he may be looking from this point of view to rebuild bridges and try and find a way of engineering what he would like, which is a half-in, half-out scenario. I can't see that happening.
There has to be a long-term concern, Rupert, doesn't there, about the Sussexes' earning power, given the fact that that new Netflix deal is a deal in name only. It's a first-look opportunity for them to pitch ideas to Netflix, which Netflix may or may not commission. And otherwise, you've got Harry, he's got a few speaking engagements, no particular entrepreneurial commitments that I can find in closer examination. Do you think money is going to be a problem for the Sussexes in the years ahead?
Well, if they can't find ways of making the kind of money to support their lifestyle, then yes, it could. Meghan's got grand ideas, but tell me, I don't think as ever her brand has gone off the shelf. And they keep saying it's sold out, but I don't think they've sold much. I think that's a marketing ploy. And I also think that, as you say, the Netflix deal, they say there are things in the pipeline, but will it make them the kind of money to support their lavish lifestyle? I'm not so sure. So that's why, for Harry, because he's got the Invictus Games and various other things, he wants to get back to what he knows, which is basically being a member of the royal family when everything is done for you. But it's not going to happen. He's made his bed, and now he's got to lie in it and suffer the consequences of his decision.
Briefly, Rupert, if you can, does this possible scoop by Charlotte Griffiths in the Mail on Sunday regarding Harry getting his armed cop protection in the UK, does it enhance the chance that the King will meet his grandchildren, Archie and Lily, for the first time since 2022?
Well, you'd hope so, and find a way. Of course, there will be an awful lot of sort of kerfuffle around it and maybe pictures. I hope that if it does happen, we don't see anything from it, and that the Sussexes are told this is not a commercial opportunity for your brand, and do not use the children as a means to say, look how much we're back in the royal foil.
Rupert, brilliant stuff. Happy New Year.
Let's clear the most dangerous distortion immediately, because it sits at the foundation of everything Rupert Bell tries to argue. He frames the Stalker incident as something that merely gives Harry credibility, as though credibility is something Harry has been attempting to manufacture for sympathy or leverage. That framing is not just misleading, it is profoundly irresponsible. A stalker reaching the residence of a high-profile public figure is not a storyline, a tactic, or a media angle. It is a verified security breach, one that any competent protection team would treat as a flashing red warning sign. Security professionals do not evaluate threats based on public opinion, tabloid fatigue, or whether commentators feel someone has earned concern. They assess patterns of fixation, escalation, access points, persistence, and ideological motivation. A stalker incident confirms vulnerability. It is not hypothetical. It is operationally serious. Harry has been consistent on this point for years, and the transcript unintentionally proves him right. His risk profile did not evaporate the moment he stopped being a working royal. The threats followed him, because they are tied to who he is, not what role he performs. Rupert Bell admits this outright when he casually says, Harry always comes here with a degree of security. That single admission collapses the entire argument that Harry is exaggerating or inventing danger. If security has always been necessary, then the issue has never been whether Harry deserves protection, only whether the UK state is willing to provide an appropriate level of it. The real scandal is not Harry pushing back. The scandal is that his security was downgraded before a full independent risk reassessment was completed. That is what Harry is challenging, and that distinction matters. Pay close attention to the phrase bells and whistles security, because it reveals far more than the speaker likely intended. This wording is not neutral. It is rhetorical minimization designed to trivialize armed police protection by framing it as excess, indulgence, or vanity, rather than what it actually is: standard procedure for individuals with Harry's threat profile. This is a man whose mother died following years of press harassment and security failures, whose military service made him a symbolic target for extremists, whose threats have been formally documented in court proceedings, and whose children are globally recognizable before they are old enough to choose privacy for themselves. Describing that level of protection as bells and whistles is not analysis. It is editorial mockery masquerading as commentary. And yet, in the very same breath, Rupert Bell claims he has sympathy if Harry is facing genuine threats. You cannot hold both positions at once. You cannot acknowledge real danger while ridiculing the solution to it. Either the threats are serious, in which case mitigation is necessary, or they are not. TalkTV wants to simultaneously concede Harry's vulnerability while framing his response as overindulgence. That contradiction is deliberate and it is dishonest. This is the most intellectually lazy argument in the entire segment, and they repeat it precisely because it sounds persuasive to viewers who are unfamiliar with how security actually works. The claim is simple. If Harry is willing to travel to places perceived as dangerous, then he cannot genuinely fear returning to the UK. But this argument collapses the moment you apply even basic scrutiny. When Prince Harry travels to countries like Nigeria, Colombia or Ukraine, he does so under host nation security frameworks, with advanced intelligence coordination, military or police escorts, controlled movement and layered protection systems that are proactive rather than reactive. These visits are invitation-based, carefully planned, and governed by protocols designed to reduce exposure. In contrast, when Harry comes to the UK under his current arrangement, he is expected to privately fund security teams that do not have access to intelligence briefings, police command structures, or rapid response infrastructure. The UK is the one place where his historical threats are most concentrated, and the one place where his protection has been institutionally downgraded. Comparing these two scenarios is not just wrong, it is deliberately misleading. Overseas visits are secured environments. The UK, under current conditions, is not. The transcript avoids this distinction entirely because acknowledging it would instantly destroy the double standards accusation they are trying to sell. Another familiar tactic appears when Rupert Bell frames the issue as Harry needing to persuade the wife to come. This framing is not accidental. It is a recycled tabloid trope that reduces Meghan Markle to an obstacle, a mood, or a personality problem rather than a rational actor responding to lived experience. It is misogyny dressed up as insight. Meghan Markle is not refusing Britain out of stubbornness or theatrics. She is a woman who endured institutional abandonment, racialized media abuse, and a systemic failure of protection while pregnant and postpartum, all while being told to stay silent. The suggestion that Meghan might return if it restores her career credibility is not only absurd, it reveals how little the commentators understand her position. Meghan does not need proximity to the royal fold to legitimize her career. What she needs, what any responsible parent would need, is assurance that her children will not be placed into a hostile environment that previously caused demonstrable harm. Wanting safety for your family is not ambition. It is not manipulation. It is basic parental responsibility. This line may sound punchy, but it exposes the emotional undercurrent driving the commentary. Whether Britain misses Harry is irrelevant to the legal and security question at hand. Protection is not allocated based on popularity, public sentiment, or perceived gratitude. Risk assessments do not include vibes, resentment, or tabloid satisfaction. They include credible threats, historic targeting, symbolic value, and exposure risk. Harry's legal case has never been about applause, affection, or reclaiming status. It has been about process. His security was removed by committee, not through an updated independent risk assessment, a fact that has been acknowledged repeatedly in court. Bringing up whether the public wants him back is a distraction tactic that reveals how unserious the opposition to his case actually is. When logic fails, they reach for emotion. Rupert Bell accuses Harry of operating in the land of double standards, but the segment itself is riddled with contradictions. Harry is criticised for travelling internationally, yet also criticised for wanting protection at home. He's mocked for leaving royal duties, yet blamed for being born royal. He's accused of moaning, while simultaneously being acknowledged as a lifelong target whose status makes him vulnerable regardless of choice. The reality is straightforward. Harry is not asking for special treatment. He is asking for consistency. Either his threat profile warrants state-backed protection, or it does not. You cannot downgrade him for political convenience and then ridicule him for objecting to the consequences. That is not accountability. It is institutional gaslighting. The sudden pivot to finances is revealing. Rupert Bell speculates, without evidence, that Meghan's brand hasn't sold much, dismisses sellouts as marketing ploys, and downplays the Netflix deal as symbolic rather than substantive. This is not reporting. It is wish-casting. It reflects a desire to see the Sussexes fail rather than an honest assessment of their work. More importantly, this line of attack is entirely irrelevant to the security debate. Armed protection is not a lifestyle subsidy. It is not a reward for obedience or popularity. It is a safety measure tied to birth, service, and demonstrable risk. Dragging money into the conversation is an attempt to morally punish Harry for choosing independence, as though safety must be earned through submission. The claim that Harry is still trying to engineer a half-in, half-out arrangement refuses to die, despite being repeatedly denied, litigated, and dismissed. Harry has been explicit. He is not seeking a hybrid royal role. What he has asked for is either the same level of protection he previously had while offering to pay for it, or, at the very least, a lawful evidence-based risk assessment. The reason commentators cling to this myth is simple. It allows them to frame Harry as scheming rather than principled. It is easier to attack an invented motive than to confront the uncomfortable truth that the system mishandled his safety and then close ranks. The final comments about the king meeting his grandchildren come wrapped in a warning that the Sussexes must not treat it as a commercial opportunity. This is preemptive discipline, punishment before any wrongdoing has occurred. It assumes bad faith by default, while ignoring the Sussexes' actual track record. Harry and Meghan have guarded their children's privacy more fiercely than almost any other public figures of their stature. The idea that they would exploit such a meeting ignores their consistent behaviour, while conveniently excusing an institution that has repeatedly allowed leaks, briefings and narratives about them to circulate unchecked. The irony here is not subtle. It is staggering. Despite the sneering tone and dismissive framing, TalkTV accidentally confirms Harry's case in plain sight. He is a target. He faces credible threats. He always travels with security. His concerns are legitimate. And resolving this could finally put it to bed. Everything else, the mockery, the money speculation, the Meghan insinuations, is noise designed to distract from one uncomfortable truth. Prince Harry should never have had his security downgraded without a proper, lawful risk assessment. And demanding safety for his wife and children is not weakness. It is leadership.